Okay, hi Matthew, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Great, I'm doing fine. Hi, Douglas. It's a joy to be here.
Well, it's nice to have you here. And I was reading through your bio. It sounds very interesting. The Joy of Public Speaking is the name of your book. This is your first book?
I've had a couple of books, so two books on European politics back in the 90s, which I loved writing and working on, but now I'm in the self-help, personal empowerment arena.
I got a kick out of the title, and the reason that I got a kick out of it is because my background is musician and actor and writer, and more recently doing this show. Public speaking was always something that I enjoyed doing, or public performance, or something like that. Private speaking is far more terrifying for me. And yet, I've had people on the show who seemed completely terrified to be on the show. In this day and age, with a lot of people self-publishing books and things, you really have to promote yourself online because otherwise you just get lost in the ether. I was intrigued by your book because it appears to make public speaking something less terrifying for some people. Would that be accurate?
That's the idea. The way I would sum it up is I want to help people make a shift from stage fright to stage delight. So it make it less frightening for sure. You've probably heard that about 75% of people have some kind of phobia, some kind of nervousness about public speaking. It's probably even more than that. It's pretty almost universal. So my mission is to help people get away from that. And it takes some mindset shifts, different ways of thinking about it. That's what the book's all about.
Well, so why is it then that people like me have the exact opposite problem? I mean, is this some kind of a genetic thing that we're just born with? Like, we have no trouble getting up and being a ham and a clown or a musician or jumping around and making a fool out of ourselves in front of everybody for a laugh. But in real life, we have trouble.
I think you're unusual, but there are some of you out there, and there's a quote. I'll just mention the quote. People say it's Mark Twain, but I doubt it. He said that most people are afraid of public speaking, and the others are liars. So I don't think he said it. It sounds like something he might say, but there is this almost universal fear, some trepidation, and I talk about stage fright. In fact, Mark Twain is the one who coined the phrase stage fright. But in any case, there is a pretty widespread fear. They've done surveys, they've done studies, and a lot of people are afraid of being judged. They're afraid of making a mistake. They're afraid that they're going to say something wrong. So they have all these thoughts going through their heads about what could go wrong. So I'd like to transplant or change those ideas when I talk to clients or give a talk, and just let people know that if you change the way you think about it, because the fear comes from inside your head, right, between the ears, and the joy that I talk about comes from your thoughts, from between your ears. What do you think about it? How do you get away from the fear? That's the inner game, the inside game that I talk about in the book. There's also an outside game, also in the book, about performance and some ideas for structuring a speech and all of that. I've done a lot of speech writing, but I really like coaching people so that they can really, I think, become more powerful in a way. It's a personal empowerment thing to get out and speak and be heard and find your voice.
Well, is your target audience with the book TED Talk type people who are there for some sort of business function, sales pitch, product awareness, marketing, people like that?
Well, I think my ideal audience is anybody who wants to be a leader, aspires to any kind of leadership role, or is already in a leadership role, but find that they aren't really getting enough out of their public speaking opportunities. They might be a little intimidated. They may not feel comfortable. So I want to work with those people and really empower as many people as possible. I mentioned 75% have some kind of stage fright. Worldwide, that would be like 6 billion people out of the 8 billion people in the world. So there's a lot of work for me to do.
Where do you start with somebody who is just terrified? They go out there, they're shaking, they're shivering, they're stuttering, stammering. I mean, what do you do with somebody like that?
Well, you try to get an idea of where it comes from. And sometimes my coaching sessions resemble therapy, although I'm not a therapist. Some clients, maybe something happened to them when they were little kids, in school, and they got up and had to give a talk and they weren't prepared, and they were laughed at or something. And so that's been carried on through adulthood. So you try to find out where it might have come from, what their thoughts are about it. People can be pretty open and honest when you have a one-on-one with a client. But in terms of a broader audience, the way I try to begin is, show of hands. How many people have some kind of fear of public speaking? And it's amazing how many hands go up.
Did you see The King's Speech, the movie?
I saw that, yeah. That was some time ago, yes, but I did see it, yeah.
Now, he was a good example of that, where he was just absolutely terrified to speak at all, to the point where he stammered.
Stuttered,
right. Yeah. And yet, according to his therapist, nobody is born with that is somehow a psychological problem or something that's developed over his childhood from fear. Probably
right.
fear of his father.
Yeah, I think what happens is it's almost, what I mentioned earlier, how universal it is. You're not going to get a lot of argument if somebody says to you, I hate public speaking, or I really have a fear of it. I have stage fright. People say, yeah, that's completely understandable most of the time. In fact, I mentioned the title of my talk to a friend, or I titled my book to a friend. And I told him, The Joy of Public Speaking. And immediately, without missing a beat, he said, there's no joy in public speaking. And people aren't going to argue with that. It's almost, understood by most people that public speaking engenders some kind of a fear or some kind of fright. And so one of the first things I start with, and you've asked that question, is, are you comfortable talking to your friends and your significant others? Are you comfortable one-on-one, even strangers? There's a lot of people enjoy that. People do talk without fear. You don't take notes, or you don't have a PowerPoint when you have a private dinner with your significant other, right? You're not tongue-tied about that. But when you put a label on speaking, so one of the things I say in my book and in my talks is there's no such thing as public speaking. There's just speaking. So don't put a label on it. Don't think of it as public speaking, because that tends to frighten people. So I like to change the mindset. There's this inner game. I'd like people to play that inner game to win and to become more effective giving a talk.
I heard once, and I think this has been said many years ago and by many people, that for people that had stage fright, this was, I think, in reference for actors, theater actors, but you go out on stage and imagine the audience are all in their underwear, and suddenly you don't feel quite as self-conscious. I've heard that one a few times.
Right.
So
I've heard that one. I don't recommend it necessarily. I do recommend that people, and there's the other one, that you just look out over their heads and look at the wall.
You
in
look
the back
beyond them. Yeah, that one I've heard too.
I'd rather people become more authentically comfortable speaking to audiences. And that means talking to one person at a time, basically. Have eye contact with one person at a time for a few seconds, have eye contact with another person, And you can do that with most audiences, and you could say that with huge audiences or maybe with lots of lights, you can't see people. Then you can use your imagination a little bit and imagine you're talking to your best friend or something. But I don't think the underwear trick or see the audience naked or imagine them naked, because that can conjure up all kinds of unpleasant thoughts. So it's better to just speak authentically as yourself. Be yourself. And I have what I call the best friend test. Who are you? How comfortable are you when you talk to your best friend? That's who you should bring to the podium.
We've got 2 minutes, and I want to hit just one or maybe two of these talking points. Talk about the Wizard of Oz formula, the rule of three.
Right.
So, right away I thought, okay, heart, brain, and courage.
Exactly. Yes, the three things. There are three things that Aristotle talks about. Three things. I won't go into that in the weeds, but those three things: heart, brains, and courage. I just saw the Wizard of Oz, by the way, on the big screen for the first time 2 days ago. But heart, brains, and courage. Every speech should touch on those three things. You got to have some good information, good data points. Don't overload people with that, but show some emotion, some passion, some heart, and have a call to action. Show a little courage. They want the speaker to show some courage, and that's one of the things that Aristotle alluded to in his three parts of rhetoric. Again, won't go into the details, but that the Wizard of Oz formula, people can get it. Those three lovable characters. Just put that in your speech. Those three things.
If all else fails, you can go back to Kansas.
You go to click your ruby slippers together and get out of there.
Okay. Well, I think on that, we're going to wrap this up. Has this book been released?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It got a book award recently, a Maincrest Media Book Award for last year for the, I think it was business and communications PR. So it's got some attention, but it is on Amazon. And, hopefully people will find some value in it. I think it's very useful, and hopefully people. The title you mentioned, you got a kick out of it. I hope it shocks people a little bit and gets them intrigued enough to take a look at the book.
Okay, last question. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Yes, people just have to learn how to spell my name. It's MatthewCossolotto.com.
Okay, we'll put it up on the screen.
You'll put it on the screen, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Matthew. Well, thank you for coming on the show. It was nice meeting you. Best of luck with the book. Hope it does well.
Great to be here. Joy to be here. Thanks a lot, Douglas.